So let's move on to Space Force versus Star Trek. I'm excited to talk about this one because I love science fiction and I love outer space. And
what about Star Trek? Do you love Star Trek?
I never.
You're not a Trekkie.
Star Trek was the only, pop culture sci-fi series or movies that I just never got into. But I respect it. I do.
Okay, so I am a bit of a Trekkie. I mean, I'm not a fanatical Trekkie, but I've watched every episode of the original Star Trek with James T. Kirk.
Never would have guessed.
Yeah. Star Trek Next Generation with Jean-Luc Picard. One of my favorite shows of all time was Enterprise, which was the 2000 version, which in the timeline it predates James T. Kirk. And it has Jonathan Archer, like maybe the greatest character in any show ever made is Jonathan Archer of Enterprise. But, I've watched Voyager, I've watched the movie. So yes, I love Star Trek. But so this, it's funny that every time we do a case in the news, it's always about like trademarks and stuff, even though patents are like the most popular form of IP, but in the news, trademarks get all the buzz, right?
Right.
So in this case, what's happening is, and maybe when you edit this and put it up, you can put the actual logos on.
Yeah. I'll have them up on the screen here.
Cool. Because so Donald Trump and his gang come up with, and when I say gang, I mean his administration. I'm not trying to be derogatory about Donald Trump because I'm not. I'm not. But anyway, Donald Trump and his administration came up with the Space Force, which is pretty cool. So they needed a logo for it. So when you look at the logo for Space Force and you look at the logo for Starfleet Command, they look almost identical. I mean, there's no doubt that somebody in that administration is a Trekkie because they have a logo that is a knockoff of Starfleet.
By the time we publish it, it's going to be on screen right now. And so you guys can judge for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's really pretty cool. So anyway, I mean, if you're going to take a logo to create the Space Force, take Starfleet Command, right?
Right.
So anyway, and they did. So anyway, so I saw this thing about, I think it was George Takei. What's the name of the guy who played not Han Solo? Zulu. George Takei, I think his name is. But anyway, or one of those guys, they said it was trademark infringement. And of course, I immediately started thinking, trademark infringement. Could it be trademark infringement? So the question is, when you're looking at these two logos, and Ray, hopefully you have them on the screen now.
Yeah.
Is it trademark infringement? So I go through in my head, what are the basic things? Well, first of all, are they confusingly similar? And they clearly are confusingly similar. Are they in the same industry? And the Starfleet Command is kind of like a Space Force, right? They provide Space Force services, and the Space Force is a Space Force services, right? So they're in the identical industries, right? They're both protecting somebody with Space Force. And so you'd think, wow, this could be trademark infringement. But then there's one fundamental problem, and that is you need to remember, trademarks only exist in connection with products and services that are being used in commerce, right?
Right.
It's hard to imagine how you can spin a fictional service like Starfleet Command as being used in commerce. I can't buy that service. I can't go to what's his name? Who's James T. Kirk? I can't pull it. But anyway, we're gonna pull it.
The Priceline guy now.
Yeah, exactly. William Shatner.
William Shatner. Thank you.
I can't go and get William Shatner to provide me a Space Force service with that logo. So there is no real service. It's artificial. It's not being used in commerce in connection with Space Force services.
Right.
So there's no trademark infringement. However, there may be copyright infringement because, and I'm not a copyright expert, but I know you can copyright fictional characters, right? You could copyright Mickey Mouse. Well, Walt Disney did copyright Mickey Mouse and Superman and Spider-Man and Batman. So why couldn't you copyright? That logo is owned by somebody as a copyright. The artificial Starfleet Command. So That could be a problem. But, you know, we talked about it a few minutes before we started, I did a quick search to see about other fictional characters, and there's a great example. There was this company called Fortress Grand, and they have a product that's in the marketplace called Clean Slate. And Clean Slate essentially wipes emails out, right? It's like a wiping software. So there's also a movie called Dark Knight Rises. And Dark Knight Rises, I think, is by Warner Brothers. So Dark Knight Rises, is it Dark Knight Rises? I think it's, let me just see here.
Yeah. It's one of the
Dark Knight Rises. So Dark Knight Rises has a character, Catwoman, very attractive, but Catwoman has a criminal history. And Catwoman wants to wipe her criminal history clean from every database in the universe so that she can start a fresh life, I guess. Now, by the way, confession, I never saw Dark Knight Rises. So I'm just going by what the article said. But anyway, so Catwoman has to, you know, get this software from the Rican Data Corporation. And it's called Clean Slate. So Clean Slate clean slates you. It wipes all the, you know, information about your criminal history from all the databases on the planet. So Fortress Grand sues Warner Brothers for trademark infringement because they're using the term clean slate, and they're worried that it's confusingly similar to the clean slate that they actually have in the marketplace.
Right.
But again, the problem is you have to actually be using a product or service in the marketplace to be committing trademark infringement. So the court actually said, you know, basically, I forgot the exact language in the thing, but it said, you know, what kind of bumpkins would think that that is a product that the Warner Brothers has licensed it and now they're selling it. It's just on the TV show. It's on the movie. There is no real Rican Data Corporation, and they're not selling a real slate cleaner that can help villains like Catwoman. I guess she's kind of like a quasi-villain, right? To get a clean slate. So they held, I think it was the Seventh Federal Court Circuit this went to, and they held that there was no trademark infringement.
Wow.
So that's our case in the news.
Interesting. Yeah, and in that case, then it couldn't really be copyright infringement either.
Well, because the real Fortress Grand is using it as a trademark.
Right.
So the question is, do they have any, or they're just using the word clean slate as a trademark. So they don't have it's not like they have a logo like that cool logo from the Starfleet Command. Now, but what if they had a logo? What if they had a cool logo?
Warner Brothers used the logo.
Maybe that's a copyright infringement case. Good point, Ray.
Could be.
All right.
Yeah, the only way that that the Space Force could have ripped off Star Trek more than it already did is if they called it the Starfleet Enterprise or whatever. Starfleet Command. Yeah.
That's right. When you look at
those Space Force, it's Starfleet, and then it would just be like.
Right. Well, I saw this thing on the news, which has, or not on the news. I just did a quick search on it, and it showed the two logos side by side. Then it showed Jean-Luc Picard side by side with Donald Trump.
Okay, now we got to stop before we get political because now
we're
upsetting half of our audience, right?
You don't want to compare a fictional leader with a real leader, and what are the flaws and positives of each?
Right.
You don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, no, we'll skip that maybe next episode. We'll leave you on a cliffhanger.
Or a different show altogether.
Oh yeah, different show altogether.
With perhaps different people in it.
Yeah. Other than you and me, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks so much for sticking it with us here through our conversation about patent pending status, the Space Force, and Star Trek. If you liked what you saw and heard, please click the like button, subscribe, and tell people about our podcast, Stuff You Should Know About IP.
See ya.
See ya.